Each Sunday night, I'd watch the practice with none of my friends. I'd turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice.
With your hosts, Keith Marty and...
A segue.
Mixing it up.
Muggy Neglio!
Way back in high school, most every night, my mom watched QVC, so I missed the practice. There was no TiVo, what could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then
fat.
stream it on Hulu. Out of practice.
I almost didn't shower because Mike needed to do an emergency podcast. But then I did, and now I look bald.
Out of practice.
I smell burning.
Out of practice.
And welcome to the Out of Practice Podcast, a weekly podcast in which me and my old buddy Mike, we talk about David E. Kelly's award-winning series, The Practice. This week, we are up to Season 6, Episode 21, This Pud's For You. I'm fiddling with dials like a maniac. What are you doing? How you doing, Mike?
This is what's wrong with our country, Keith. You're fiddling with a third monitor you don't need.
I sure do.
Hashtag first world problems. And I'm texting my wife 10 feet away asking her for coffee, which I
for
shouldn't
Christ's
do.
sake.
Hashtag douchebag husband. So
Yeah.
here we are.
No. Look, I need a third monitor, okay? Do you realize how many things I have to have open during this podcast? Let me do a rundown, okay? See, I've got to have the IMDb page for the episode up. I have to have our email up. I have to have our Facebook or our YouTube up for comments. I have to have the rundown for the show. I have to have the notes for the show. I have to have the soundboard for all of our sound cues. And I've got to have the Skype window so I can interact and see you and my own chubby face here on the screen. I need a lot of things, and of course, the reason for the third monitor, I have Pro Tools now over here so I can make sure that it hasn't crashed. So there's a lot going on, Mike. I'm just saying.
I can't wait for the winter, Keith, because you see, I built this computer, and when I'm running OBS and I have all these things happening, it gets hot. And because the kitten is currently in I want to kill the fish and eat the blinds phase, I have to keep the office door closed when we're filming. So the heat gets backed up. And so by filing the subpoenas, I'm sweating my balls off.
Subpoenas off?
Yeah. See? You're so much better than me. So much better.
Yeah, well, luckily, I'm in the basement, which is, by rule, like 10 degrees cooler than anything else. So even on the hottest days, when the air is on, I'm cold down here, which I love. Like, chubby Vermonters are almost never cold, and I consider it a privilege. So there it is. Yeah, so we are recording this a little early because you're going on vacay, yeah?
I am, and I'm pretty excited about it. We're going up to the cabin. Actually, to be honest, we're not going to stay at the cabin, which is our little hunting shack in the middle of the Adirondacks. Down the way, my brother-in-law rented this like pimp ass, like glamping, huge cabin on the lake, with the dock and the view and the fire pit and the thing. He spent way too much money, of which we did not give a fair share.
So did he rent it
do
for the
not
whole
have
summer? Is that what happened?
No, just a week. If I told you the price it costs to rent this place for a week, your head would spin. But we got invited, so we're going to go and stay with them. And my niece will be back from college. My two young nephews will be there. Some friends and family friends and stuff. It's going to be a little bit more family reunion than it has been in years past. But I didn't get to go last year, so it's been like almost 3 years since I've been up. So I'm really excited.
Well, yeah, because, there was, I don't know if you remember, there was a global pandemic, so that we couldn't do any of that kind of thing for a long time. So Get your vaccines.
Did I
kids.
mention to you that a group that I sing with, we got offered a cruise on an Italian cruise line, an MSC cruise? I don't think I told you this, so I guess I'll
No,
tell you in
you
real
didn't.
time. And the money was, as you can imagine, pretty good because not a lot of groups want to go out. It was going to be 5 weeks. They're booking groups for longer periods because I guess that makes sense. You can't be turning over because then there was an extra week in the beginning. You had to go and quarantine in your room, locked down in your room for a week
Oh, really?
in order to get, past the protocol, and you had to be vaccinated. And then you'd get full passenger status, which is what guest groups do. But they were letting on unvaccinated passengers. However, if you were unvaccinated, there was a daily fee. It was extraordinarily expensive to be unvaccinated. And in addition to that, you also had like a separate galley, separate place to eat, a separate this, quarantine, mask the whole time. And so like you were living like third-class passengers on the Titanic. It's really interesting. Anyway, long story short, I said no.
Yeah, because you got to pay the stupid tax.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I appreciate that they are trying to do something, trying to make some sort of accountability, holding people accountable for their own stupidity a little bit. But you shouldn't be allowed to do anything. Now I don't know who's listening to this. Like somebody might feel differently, but if you do, sorry. I don't think you should be able to buy toilet paper until you're vaccinated at this point, unless you have like a medical condition. Like, come on, people. Whew, before I get
about it before,
too fired up. Yeah.
Science is science, and believe what you will, the numbers are the sheer onslaught that you're seeing right now is in places where the vaccination rate is very low. It's
and it's not even and regardless of what the vaccination rate is. And I think this should be soothing to us vaccinated folks who are sort of made nervous by all of this. Of the breakthrough cases, of the people who are getting it now, somewhere between 97 and 99% of them are the unvaccinated. So, like math, obviously there are cases. There's always going to be cases. You have a large enough sample size, people are going to die from soda machines, like every day. So, but you're mathematically you are like statistically safe, and it literally just comes down to like get your shots. Don't be a dummy.
Yeah,
don't be a dummy. Well, folks, if you would like to flame me on the internets and give me your very best right-wing theory, because Donald Trump was too insecure to wear a mask, so therefore we had an adversarial relationship with science from the very beginning. I think we'd all be getting our vaccines without thinking about it if Donald Trump had bigger hands. Anyway, sorry, I need to stop.
Were you segueing into contact information somehow through that?
I was.
You know what? Since he's out of job, Keith, why don't we have Donald Trump come on in and let our viewers / listeners know how to tell us that we went too political, even though we had stopped, but then we went back.
I don't know, Mike. I'm not technically literate. But if you would like to contact us, you could get us at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com or on Facebook and Instagram. I am not allowed to use those, but they are at Out of Practice Podcast. And, join the jury. I don't like juries. I'll probably be convicted soon. But you can leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's amazing. It's great. It's beautiful. Podcast. Apple Podcasts. Leave a review. Yeah.
Wow. Folks, let me just say, you've been doing some work on your Trump. Because that was the best you've ever had.
I haven't
added
done a
some
Trump.
really specific nuances.
Well, here's the little nuance I've added to my Trump. Although I literally haven't done it in like 6 months. What you have to do is on any big words, slow it down as if he's reading it phonetically. So like Trump wouldn't say phonetically. He'd be like phonetically. Because
you're right.
That's,
you know what?
That's,
He'll
that's
never
the
win
detail.
an OOPSY, Keith, but we will give him an unofficial OOPSY, if you know what I'm saying.
See, you're there today. You're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. What should we do? You want to?
Well-
Let's go to the basement. What do you say?
I think we should go to the basement. I think we should just hop straight to the time machine, because we are in a very interesting time, both on the series, The Practice, and in our lives. So it's pretty cool. We are going to talk today about May 19th, the year 2002, and answer the question, hey, what was going on?
This day in the basement.
Well, this was about the Geesh.
It
Can
was
it
about
be? Yeah, the 1 year anniversary of my dad dying. Nuts.
Oh, Jesus.
Balloons, confetti. Which didn't dawn on me till this exact second. I had just moved.
You want me to get that graphic I did for your birthday with the confetti all over everything?
I just
Great.
moved back to Pennsylvania for what would thankfully be, and probably life-saving, be a short period of time. Because New York had overwhelmed me pretty quickly after school, and the truth of the matter was I was straight up broke.
Yeah.
And was just going to kind of take the summer off in Pennsylvania, and that's basically what it ends up being. But I am living in the basement of my mom's house, and what's cool is that this particular... Oh, side note for those following the saga.
This was... I was going to bring it up.
I got the converter.
Okay.
There is nothing on that tape. It is blank.
No!
Yes. However, which is interesting. I don't know why it's labeled the way it is. I think perhaps I had labeled it in order to get a copy from a friend back when you'd had to bootleg these VHS tapes. And I think I
Right.
just never did it. I think I never copied or got the tape from Jason. Long
So
story
where
short,
is it?
I think my buddy Jason has it.
Jason, the saga. Are we going to get to the end of the saga before the
No.
end of the season?
But I have to tell you, what I did find, and I think for the season of Spectacular was I was thinking, I have found two things. Well, one thing and then next season. So I found a tape from. Do you remember, Keith, in our first season of this show?
I remember nothing about our first season.
Well, we talked about my first professional job, which was Hello Again at the City Theater in Delaware.
Yeah,
And
I vaguely remember
like
that. Yeah.
$400. I did not know this, but I have a VHS copy of that performance.
No kidding.
Yep, you'll recall I played the young thing, so it's going to look like Butthole, but I have a tape of it, so I'll play that from seasons ago. And I found
That's exciting.
a performance from October 12th, 2003 of Forever Plaid in Rochester, New York.
No kidding.
So next season we have some goodies from there. So
We
I
need
got
to
some stuff.
put together a production of Plaid.
Yeah, we absolutely should do that before the
'Cause, like,
entire audience is dead.
It can't be that difficult to do. It's not that crazy to license.
No, it's
It's
nothing.
cheap. We have a Jinx. We have a Frankie. Right?
I'm a Sparky these days.
You're
but
Sparky.
I could do it.
Oh, I forget. I don't even remember who anybody is. But
I know a smudge who would come up and do it in a heartbeat. On a few.
I feel like we could put together a pretty damn good production of Plaid, like out of our cell phone.
Yeah. In fact, I could probably get my buddy Kenny to do it up at the depot. Get ourselves a nice little weekend away. Let's talk about this. Not on this
Okay,
podcast.
great. Yeah, and luckily the original cast was all a bunch of old farts too. So the precedent has been set that
I've
these
seen productions
teenagers
where they
are
set a
played
line where,
by
like,
middle-aged chunky dudes.
We've got our mics, our something, and our bodies, and one person goes, and we got old. And so
And we
there's
got
work.
so old.
Okay,
Yes.
anyway, Keith, so I'm back, and
Yes.
what's nice is that one of the things I think I'd mentioned in the past, my dad loved to do when he was with us, was to go watch my brother wrestle when he was still doing like minor league professional wrestlings. Well, around this time in 2002, I think it was late May or early June, so this exact time period, my brother was defending his WXW Cruiserweight Championship title versus a guy named Smooth Tommy Suede, who would go on to wrestle on like the undercard and Raw a few times. And this was at a thing called Sports Fest in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is like an outside thing. Anyhow, if this technology works, I believe...
Oh, hell yeah.
Let's see here.
I'm so excited to see this because, we in our empire, we do have plans to do some sort of a wrestling thing.
Yep.
So I've been doing a ton of research.
I've noticed when I look at the history of our YouTube,
that's true. All I do is
YouTube.
watch old wrestling clips. So look out. I'm going to be like an expert by the time we start. This is awesome.
Can you hear that?
I can't hear it, but I can see a lot of people standing. I don't know if the match was that great. It seems like they just stood there.
You should be able to hear it. I'm going to quickly check as to why perhaps you can't hear it.
As long as the audience hears it. I can be JR. I'll call it.
No, I definitely want you to hear it.
Look at that.
I gotta find a way for you to hear it. Hold on.
Shot multicam.
Yes. Hold on. Now we've got it. We've got the
Coming
audio.
up, the match that we
There we
talked
go.
about a little bit earlier, guys. And this is it, zero gravity.
Ladies and gentlemen, the following
You can hear it now,
contest is scheduled
yes?
for one fall.
Yes.
And it is for the WXW
Zero Gravity was your
Cruiserweight
brother.
Championship. Introducing the challenger, making his way to the ring from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, weighing in at 202 pounds, Smooth Tommy Suede.
Boo! You suck,
And
Tommy.
there she is, the beautiful Ariel, leading out the challenger here tonight for the Cruiserweight Championship.
All right,
Tommy
so that's
Suede.
Tommy Suede who we're fighting against.
Pennsylvania,
Come
weighing
on,
in
we're
at
here for zero
208
gravity.
pounds,
Let's be honest.
The WXW
I
Cruiserweight
wish I were 208
Champion,
pounds.
Zero Gravity.
Here he
Oh,
comes.
look at that. He's got the belt and the
My
saunter.
choice for champion right there.
Can definitely tell he's an
Your
individual.
choice for
Hold the
champion
goal.
because he is the champion.
And one thing for sure, Mark Clemson, this is going to be a very
This is so cool.
fast-paced match.
You have to
Both
send me
of
this
these
link.
young guys,
I think he was a bad guy now.
highly skilled
he
young
a heel?
wrestlers.
You got to use the wrestling
Suede
terms. I know it now.
Off the ropes, big short tackle, knock it down. The Cruiserweight
Good back
Champion.
bump.
Suede up and over. Nice leapfrog there by Zero Gravity. Suede off
Oh.
the ropes again. Leapfrog there by Tommy Suede. Nice move. And it's. And now, whoa, wait a minute.
Hey, no, what the hell? What is
Suede gives up. No.
I'm just jumping through here.
He's got some ground game. He's a flyer.
Sports 26, the World Series
That's right.
of Professional Wrestling. I'm Mike Mittman along with the bald guy. And Mark Clemson ringside. Here we go.
Come on, get up there. Yeah, splash him from the top rope.
A shining example as to why this man can
Shooting star.
Yes.
Oh, bad cutaway there.
Suede.
using all of his own moves against him.
He stole.
Yeah, I get it, she's pretty, but,
Mr.
like-
Baldman.
And here he goes.
This is where he's his most dangerous.
We said this was going to be a high, quick-paced match.
Here we go.
Oh, shit.
50 splash on Zero Gravity. Suede with the cover now.
Oh, don't drop that belt.
Kicked out
I
after
thought
two.
he had it. He
Oh, he
barely
kicked out on
kicked
two.
it. Ariel's up there.
But he's
Although he
not
did
fighting in
finally
the,
wants to
Looks like there
walk
was a
away.
botch job there. So they really went for it here. We're going like 15,
No,
20
this is a
minutes.
serious
He
match.
did keep
They gave him
us up.
time.
Oh, a low blow.
Low blow.
Gravity
He's
now
going
looks
up
like
again.
He's gonna fly.
Going out on that top.
Telling some of the fans.
The audio delay is actually really
Wait a minute.
comical.
Hey,
Zero gravity up on top.
Oh, nut shot.
Pulls the
Oh,
rope.
interference.
For the
It's going to be a
fourth time
What is
DQ.
Ariel doing
Plays
here?
it now. Look at this.
What?
She has Zero Gravity up.
No, this looks bad.
Oh, what for?
Oh, damn.
Zero Gravity taking down Ariel as she went for a Hurricane Rana. Zero
Folks,
Gravity
don't
doing
try
what
this
he
at home.
had to do
No.
to escape that move. And you
This
see
is
the
serious.
rings in the
Murdered a
eyes
woman.
of Smooth
He might
Tommy
need
Suede.
Eugene.
And you know what? She's in bad shape. I think she hurt her neck.
And right now,
really bad.
Oh, now he's got the belt.
Zero Gravity has the title.
Oh.
Oh, no. He's definitely a
Belt,
heel
but
here.
The referee didn't see it.
Referee is
I don't know
taking
if she
Ariel.
interfered.
Zero Gravity with a nice move. I wouldn't call it nice. Maybe a clutch.
going-
move
Oh,
he's
right there,
going after the
nailing
ref.
belt.
Eye for an
Over
eye.
the head.
Pulling the referee down the
This is
count.
it.
Oh no!
Foot
Look at
on the rope.
that. Feet straight up the middle straight.
Wow.
Amazing.
Seal the deal, I would say.
Here's the finish right
for
here.
Tommy Suede.
Yep.
Ariel
That's-
trying to go for that top rope Hurricane Rana, but Zero Gravity catches her and takes her down with a nice power
yeah.
bomb, which distracted the challenger.
mean, that
enough
was-
for
that was
Zero
done
Gravity
right.
to get
That was
the
safe.
title, like you see right here. Nail him.
Wham!
Over the
Right
back of the
over
head.
the neck with that
Amazing.
belt. The referee out
So
of
there you go.
position.
That's
All right.
what
Well, we
I was
now
doing
know what
that night.
the pilot is for our wrestling show.
My brother he retained the title. Unfortunately, he could not retain his hairline.
Well, join the club. That's all right. You know, neither did Hulk Hogan, so he did all right.
True. Keith, what about you, man? What were you up to?
Wow. I mean, I definitely can't top a wrestling match, but I do have, it's kind of an important day in my life.
Okay.
May 19th, 2002. First off was the day before my 22nd birthday. So that was happening. But, folks, it was my college graduation. I was going to play... Hold on. I should, if I'd been a better podcaster, I would have pulled this up earlier, because this is the appropriate.
Yeah, and I couldn't think of the tune, but I'm sure you've got it.
Yes.
Pomp and Circumstance?
Pomp and Circumstance is the tune. Here it is. Folks.
Hold on, let me get out of
Once
here.
my YouTube loads. YouTube has been loading really slowly lately. I don't know what's going on with that. Anyway, so here it is. The 77th commencement of the Eastman School of Music on Sunday, May 19th. And there I am getting my diploma.
Wiki,
and,
fan!
Yeah, that's true. And me with my brothers on the right, and me with the other voice majors in my class. We only graduated 8 voice majors. And there was 135 undergrads, and it was cool. I mean, it was quite the. I mean, I don't know how to gauge it because it was pretty small compared to most college graduations. But those are most of my buddies from my year. We called ourselves the team of voice majors because I sort of spearheaded wanting to make it a more supportive environment amongst ourselves as opposed to like the crazy competitive atmosphere. So I sort of declared us voice majors a team, and so we all helped each other, and it was really fun. So there it is. That was the end of Rochester for me right before you got there. And yeah, I haven't changed a heck of a lot. I'm a little fatter, but I'm basically the same. So yeah, so that was that. It was fun. My family came down. I'm going to tell you next week about the trip home, which ended up being pretty exciting. Because Mike, you don't know this, but you're going to have an interesting problem because next week it's also going to be May 19th because they burned off the final 2 episodes of the season back to back on May 19th, 2002. So, and the other thing is, when I remember this storyline from the practice, I don't remember this storyline. And I'll tell you why, because I was graduating and I didn't see it. And there was no, in order to tape it, you had to have like a VCR, and I think I was like packing. And so some of these episodes from this time, I have never seen. So it's
Have you prepped next week already?
I have.
Oh, man, I was going to say we should watch it then together in real time because you hadn't seen it, but, well.
Well, yes.
You know where it's headed, I guess.
You do know, you have to know where it's headed because the consequences are kind of long-term. So you would, it would definitely bleed in. So, folks, or not, I guess. So that's what was going on in our lives on May 19th, 2002. I think it's time that we zoom out a little further and talk about...
It's time for the Out of Practice Podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago. Now back to Keith and Mike.
Well, folks, we were still listening to Foolish by Ashanti. And when we went to the movies, do you know what we were going to go see, Mike?
I have a guess.
You have a guess because you have the rundown now. It's sad. But we were going to see Star Wars Attack of the Clones. So, big old movie. I remember I saw that one back in Vermont about a week later. And, so that was... Clones wasn't the worst. Like,
No.
I think the
It had a
prequel
good
series
little romance
got
in
better.
there.
No,
Good little
the
romance.
No, fuck the romance. The romance is it's so bad, so bad. But the fighting was good. I liked the fighting.
Yeah, that CGI that we can do better in OBS these days.
We can. The local paper, the Brentford Free Press, talked about IBM ripples felt far. And obviously, I've talked about it before. We had the big IBM plant in Essex, which was at this point beginning to peter up. And so that was had a huge consequence on the town and the economy, because it was by far the biggest, part of the economy there. So let us continue to, the more important segment, and that is
It's time for Sports Ball.
the Carolina Hurricanes dashed the hopes of the Toronto Maple Leafs in 6 games, sending them to the Stanley Cup Finals, where they would meet the Detroit Red Wings, who would outlast the Colorado Avalanche, winning the Game 6 2-0, and Game 7 7-0. Dominic Hasek was dominant, shutting out the Avs in the last 2 games.
Keith, it dawns on me, things are chugging along a little bit this episode, and I'm wondering why. And it dawns on me that because we shoot our other show in 60 frames, that I forgot to change it back, so I'm shooting this in 60 frames, and with all the bullshit I have on this show, it's really trying to kill my computer. So
We're really taxing, huh?
we'll see. If you see a ton of dropped frames on this episode, who cares? Nobody watches this shit.
Who would see it, Mr. YouTube? But look how clearly you can see my hands moving. Woo! Even though I'm definitely not giving you 60.
We're shooting in 30 frames, so it's just doubling frames for no reason, which is the funny part.
Wow.
Anyway, that makes me mad as hell, Keith.
Does it? Very good. Very good.
Yep,
Very
thanks.
good. Here we go.
I'm a human being, god damn it! My
Nope.
life has value, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
It's time to talk about the damn episode.
And we're not going to risk melting down Mike's computer so that we don't lose what we've done so far.
Why won't it run? I'm so curious.
Because your computer wants to die. It's because, think about it. Not only is it processing 60 frames a second, it's not just that. What is it processing? The poor thing is having to process our faces in 60 frames a second.
Yeah.
So, that's got to be demoralizing. I mean, honestly, I don't know how you could get up in the morning and be like, "Oh, it's Sunday morning. What are we gonna do? We're gonna look
That's
at
like
Keith
them
and Mike."
handing us a picture, a graphic artist, our faces, and being like, "Can you Photoshop them?" And they're like, "Listen, it's just gonna look fake. It's just gonna look fake."
Life is precious, and oh my god! All right, well, let us actually talk about this episode of The Practice. It's a huge one. I don't know if you remember from last week, but Lidsay shot a guy dead.
Oh, I remember. I tend to recall.
And that was a thing that happened. And we're going to find out more about that from writer David E. Kelly, still taking over. He's in charge. What's going to happen? He's going to write it. And it's directed by veteran director Jeannot Soir, who last directed Man and Superman. But there's a lot of memorable episodes this season. And that leaves us with only one thing to do and answer the question. That is...
What is that supposed to mean?
What's your problem?
Is this what happens to women when you insert your penis?
What?
What?
What does Mike think's gonna happen?
What if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
Keith, some would say, and by some I mean me, that revenge is a dish best served sexy. So, this episode, we find out 2 things that are really important that will bring us into the season finale.
Okay.
Number 1, Bobby's in shock. Okay. He calls the police. Everybody shows up to the apartment. It's a hubbub, as we've seen a million times before.
Peas and carrots.
But one thing is missing, Keith. And do you know what that one thing is?
What's that?
Lidsay.
Ooh.
Lidsay and all of the chaos has fled. We don't find Lidsay. Did she run away? Has she been kidnapped? What has happened? And as we're processing through the episode, we find out that some other defendants who have been accused of serial killers or of killings have been being murdered. Keith, there is a killer on the loose, and there are suspicions that it could be Lidsay Dole.
Ooh, so like Lidsay. So it's not the firm that's Dexter. It's actually Lidsay who's Dexter.
Potentially, she's a vigilante. I workshopped it in my head very quickly, and
I actually like it. I think that was good. That was good.
And so that will lead us into the season finale, where we find out: has it been Lidsay? Was it not Lidsay? What's going on? So that's my pick.
And that's sexy. How?
I just worked sexy in with that cool turn of phrase at the top.
You know, saying that word doesn't make it sexy.
Come on, anything Lidsay does is sexy, man.
Okay, well, sure. I don't know. I feel like it's a stretch. But you know,
Lidsay going on a potential killing spree is not a stretch.
Well, I mean, honestly, from what we've seen of the show so far, our heroes going on killing sprees is like, so what else is new? Like,
that's true.
They're all a bunch of freaking murderers. Okay, well, if you would like to listen to this episode, it is time to hop over to your podcasting service of choice and listen to us, listen to The Practice, Season 6, Episode 21, This Pod's for you.
And we are baby.
Wow.
Oh, Keith, you know what I forgot to do?
What did you forget to do?
Well, you're gonna find out shortly.
Oh, good. Oh, it's gonna be are you gonna work putted on the fly?
Yeah, we have to.
Fun. Well, but before you do that, you know, because we're nice, we're gonna give you a little warm up. As we recap This Pud's for you in one of my favorite segments.
2, 3, 4. Mike has 30 seconds to remember what just happened on the show.
Lidsay.
Segment.
Lidsay's facing that accusation of murder. They're putting together the dream team. On the other side, there's this guy who talks about his dick a lot, kidnapped some chick, maybe killed her, but she's not dead. She's just kidnapped. And then Helen kills him indirectly, and also his buddy indirectly, and now maybe the kidnap victim. So a lot of cliffhangers.
Lots going on. All right. Well, now do it again. Fewer syllables, on the fly, and be sure to work in PUD.
In a segment we like to call... Pud has the info.
Mike is on the fly.
Uh-oh. Helen has him killed.
Yeah, nice.
Lidsay's in deep shit.
All right. Yeah, well done. Sometimes I think you work best on the fly.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's really, really fine work. All right. Well, I think now that we have recapped the episode, it's time to throw out some prestigious awards in a segment we call...
Ladies and gentlemen, the Out of Practice podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present...
OOPSY.
The OOPSYs! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady. Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike.
What the hell are the oopsies?
Well, Jackie, they're everyone's favorite award show, which begins with everybody's favorite bumper.
That, we've done a lot over these past few years, Keith. I'm not sure we're going to ever
be able to top
surpass
that.
those few moments.
No,
in fact, when you've got to come up with your clips for the end of the year spectacular, which is generally, I'm sure, a daunting task. Really, this year, all you got to do is
really
get the
pretty
repeat
straightforward.
button.
I've already saved it. Don't worry. I played it for my mom so many times.
That whole ordeal. It's funny. I think I mentioned I went to the ENT a little while back, and they put the scope down your throat, and then they have you do some vocalies so they can look at it. And I'm tempted. I have to go back on, I think, the week after next. And when they put that scope down, I want to just be like, just tell me what's happening when I do most valuable
I will give you $34 if you do that and record it. Think about all you can buy with that $34, Mike.
Guys, Rebecca Cricket, spoiler alert, not going to win most valuable lawyer here.
Yeah.
Actually, in all seriousness, I think that it goes to Eugene here because, like you said, there's a lot of moving parts with this particular murder trial, and I think that Lindsay is in such an emotional, fragile state, and her relationship with Bobby, and Bobby's one of the main pieces of the law firm, and so there's a lot of things they've got to juggle. They've got to come up with a good defense. They've got to come up with a strategy. They've also got to stay on the case because, as you could see, Walsh as well as the judge are sort of putting out that they could be disqualified at any given time due to different factors. Plus, there are interviews to be done. There's a lot. And as you said, Eugene is the man running point and making the decisions as to who will do what and keeping things organized and ultimately to provide Lindsay with the best way of not only winning the case, but protecting her career, protecting the baby, protecting the reputation of the firm. A lot of moving parts, and I think Eugene thus far is doing a great job of it. So I'm going to give my MVL to Eugene.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think what he's demonstrating is a level head under pressure and a realistic sense of what's happening. And, I think that's one of the best things that he does is he is able to assess a situation and realize that realistically there's no way to avoid a charge here. So let's start operating from the sort of the more defensive position where we're not just sort of like hoping that it goes away. Let's get our ducks in a row and protect ourselves as much as possible, which is what you hire a lawyer to do. And that's what his advice always, don't talk. Let's plan for the worst to every client that ever comes in the door. And that includes Lindsay. And I think that was smart. So congratulations, Eugene, for your MVL. Coming up next, everybody stretch. Get the creak out. Here we go.
Already famous cause you've been on TV, getting a paycheck, or the first entry on your IMDb. Way to go, but you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
Well,
yeah, what you gonna do here?
I don't know that we have a lot of choice. Do you have a loophole, Keith?
Well, here's my.
I think he did as he was directed to do.
He did, and it's tough. Of course, we're talking about Robert Cicchini. He's put in an awfully difficult situation. Can you imagine reading that script and you want me to say what? What am I doing here? What is the point here?
I have to tell. I'm going to tell you a really vague story that reminds me of. But I was thinking about it the other day. Yes, I'm going to share the story. So
yes,
I got a text about a year ago, maybe a little bit more, from it was before COVID, so we're talking 2 years. Man, time.
Yeah, right. Jeez.
From a director I had worked with, Respect, who had written his first play, and had asked me to potentially read the title role in this play, and that he had funding to bring off Broadway. So that's like
great.
Mm-hmm. And I was really, it was a great credit, and the money was okay, and I was really flattered. And then I read it, and it dealt with some themes that I was not embarrassed by. However, I felt were very antithetical to the sort of things happening, the sort of seismic shift in our business and in the world as a whole. Like, I don't want to just limit it to Me Too.
What you're saying is it was Black Lives Don't Matter, the musical?
It wasn't that. It was very much a Me Too story, but from the viewpoint of a victim who was a straight white guy. And I just felt, I just felt like this is not our story to tell at this time, and so I said no. I don't know what happened to the piece, and I'm not saying it was a bad piece in any way. I'm not. It's not the quality of the piece. That it was just. That was like the first time in my whole life or career I've said no. I turned something down because I felt like it just wasn't a good look for me. So
yeah,
it can happen. You can say no, but then again, if it was a television show and the money was like a guest spot, I don't know that I would have said no. So I don't know if Pud had
Mike
the opportunity.
has a price, folks. Mike has a price.
But that said, look, some of the dialogue and the whole thing is kind of weird, but it does go to this guy. You asked me earlier, and I didn't have a good argument. This guy's ego is so through the roof about himself, about his dick, apparently, that he thinks not only can he get away with a kidnap murder, this crime, but he's got insurance in case he isn't. He's hoping I get acquitted, and then I'd like to know what his whole plan and plot here is. We can talk about it. Like, I'm going to kidnap this person, get accused of the murder, get acquitted, but if I don't get acquitted, I've got her kidnapped as insurance, only release the tape if it's not looking well. The plot doesn't really hold up under any scrutiny, in my opinion.
No, there's no logic to that plot whatsoever.
However, it's clearly the plot of like a sort of insane guy with a crazy ego. So he played that pretty well. I mean, I liked his couple flip outs on Rebecca. I thought that they showed some different colors, but I mean, he was given a pretty broad stroke character to play, and he did a good job. I don't know that he gets an oopsie, though. I mean, can we give it to the judge? Who else is in it? Who else is a guest star in this episode?
I'm giving it to Bill Simichevich, who at this point is pretty much like a main character.
I keep thinking he's not an option, but he is.
He is. He's a guest actor.
Love it. Lock and load.
And all right, there it is. Congratulations. We talked about the other actor for about 45 minutes, but you
win. And then ripped the oopsie right from his cold.
Oh my God! If he's listening to this, he's going to be so pissed.
Keith, this just in.
Yeah,
he's not listening to this.
No, I can't imagine. All right, well, coming up next, it's time for.
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show.
Guys, ladies, audience members, gentlemen, gentlewomen, Romans, gladiators. Once again, you get to see Mike and Keith struggle here because... Is that Jill singing, I hear?
It is, yes. She's got auditions to work on.
I wish I had auditions to work on.
Yeah, don't we all? Do you want to talk about professional disappointments? Boy, have I got a story to tell you offhand.
Oh, I can't wait to hear
Off
that.
air.
There are just a tour de force of great performances this week. When we get to see the whole gang working together, it just doesn't get better than that. We're gonna poke a lot of holes in this episode, I feel, in a few minutes, but let's not undervalue how great our cast is. Steve Harris, great performance this week, just trying to keep the focus. Dylan McDermott, a really tamed, focused performance. Kelly Williams, having to play hysteria, but keep it within the character, I think, awesome. Lara Flynn, under incredible stress on both sides, can murder people indirectly twice, show us Judge Helen McDread, and still keep it inside the realm of plausibility and
show the
believability.
consequences. Show the emotional consequences of the mistakes that she made. Yeah.
Not much from Jimmy and or Lucy, but a little bit. Lucy had a great comic bit that I thought was played well. For me, though, it's Lisa Gay, unbelievably, in this episode, because it started like it was an offhand comic kind of plot. I think the way they pull it around, actually. But and I think what you just said there, Keith, is really what this episode is about. Consequences. Consequences of our actions, consequences of our strategies, consequences of the way the dice are rolled. And Lisa Gay is playing an antagonist to her client almost the whole episode, and tries to leverage it, in fact, in order to help Lidsay. And all of these things sort of come back. And for the first time, whereas she's usually the one talking people down when they're dealing with the fallout of their consequences, this is the first time we've had to really see her reckon with hers. And those questions, am I responsible for these deaths?
Mm-hmm.
Is that responsibility worth the potential benefit? Is there any potential benefit? Are we going to lose the kidnap? Was it all for nothing? I think watching someone, now everything I just said is the script and the directing, right? However, her portrayal of it is subtle for the most part, but it is unmistakable and undeniable. And if you watch the episode 2 more times, I think you pick up even more. If I was looking for it all throughout the episode, I probably would have found more points to highlight, but you did. So tell me what you think and if you agree.
No, I do agree with you. I think it's Lisa Gay's episode for sure. Although Kelly Williams did some amazing work. But no, I think Lisa Gay really did. She elevated what was happening around her. And especially in those early scenes where it was just bafflingly bizarre for reasons that I still don't understand. But she was able to, keep her character in the real world, even if no one else was around her, and to watch it sort of spiral out for her. And everything, like pretty much everything that could go wrong did go wrong in this case. And I thought she did a great job. So I think you said it. I think it's Lisa Gay. Lisa Gay Hamilton wins the Best Actor. Oopsie. Which brings us up to our good friend and antagonist.
The Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
Just because I want to see what you do with it at the end of the year, Keith. The winner for the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady this week is This Pud's for Tom Brady. Just to see what happens with that.
What I can get through the Instagram censors? Great. That's fun.
This
Thanks
Pud's for
that.
Tom.
Thanks for that. All right, folks. We have arrived at the moment where we're gonna have to throw some tires around.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
Whew. For the first 30 minutes, I was pretty down on the Rebecca plot. However, where it leads is actually pretty powerful, and it led to some of the best sort of moral gray area for Rebecca that we've ever seen. And it's an interesting turn, as I mentioned, because she's usually the sort of ethical center and counsel to our other players. Though I will, Keith and I already begun, if you just skip to the tires for some reason, we already started discussing a little bit earlier why the whole character and plot of the Pud storyline doesn't really make any sense. Like, as a criminal, like, was he trying to cover his tracks? Is it just a bizarre? None of it makes a lot of sense, and because they didn't care to really like fill us in on any of that stuff. And I guess my question then becomes: was it necessary to make such the character, the villain, this antagonist, so stupid? Isn't it more powerful for Rebecca if he's actually like a plausible human being? It just seems like the ridiculousness doesn't serve a purpose from a plot standpoint, and that bothers me, because an episode that could have been excellent at best can only be good because it's so ridiculous for so long. And I know that they're trying to use that as a red herring to throw us, right? But you're juxtaposing it with the biggest plot of the season. So don't minimize it. Don't make it hold the same weight. And it eventually does. But why does it have to be eventual, right?
Yeah.
Once again, it feels written backwards, maybe, or that they threw... we'll talk about it more once you weigh in. That said, it ends up being pretty cool. I like the sort of cliffhanger-y ending, if there is one. They could also leave it dangle, which would be really awesome, if unsatisfying. The Lidsay thing, we talked, I think it was last week, we talked about, we're redoing a plot line, but let's do it better this time, like a retcon. Mm-hmm. I feel like that is happening once again here. I think the Lidsay murder trial is superior to the Bobby murder trial because she did kill the guy. She had a reason to, but also there are reasons why she is at fault, and there are discussions about lying and all these kind of moral things, and that lots of cool questions. And we're getting to see the things we love, which is the full team effort, Eugene calling shots, and I hope that next episode we'll get to see them doing their individual jobs, the interviewing of the doctors, the ballistics, the stuff we say is our favorite stuff. I want to see it, right?
Sure.
And then some great litigation, and maybe we'll have maybe Kittleson. Oh no, I guess it's not Kittleson. We have the judge, right? Good stuff, right? But you'd think Rebecca would be in on this, but they sort of put her in this other case, which involves Helen. So Helen's not involved in the main case, which I guess she couldn't anyway. So there's just it's muddied a little bit. It's like, it's so close for me to get away from for the train to run away from me and be like, this episode is great. But I just feel underwhelmed because it feels like we're retreading ground. It's like wasn't Bobby's murder trial last season?
I think so, yeah.
So I feel like we're bookending 2 subsequent seasons with the same beat. That said, like I said, this is better, and the interplay between Bobby and Lidsay, if not dramatically satisfying, is at least somewhat realistic to relationships. I just think I am excited. It did set the table well. I just can't love it, man. I'm going probably lower than I should. Pud takes out some points. I'm going to go 7-6-7.
7-6-7. Yeah. Here's what gets me about this episode. Internal logic. Right? I'll buy a wacky story and a crazy character if, at least from the point of view of the character, there is some logic there. There is some, like, he's crazy, so what he thinks doesn't make sense, but it does make sense to him. And I don't think any of that storyline. I can't write a version. I can't fill in the blanks from this character's perspective what his plan was, what he was trying to do, what even if it was crazy. What was he trying to accomplish with all the PUD nonsense, which went away? What was he trying to accomplish with abducting this person? What was the friend? I don't, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I really like the idea of putting Rebecca in a situation where her case spirals out and everything goes to hell and the worst possible thing happens. And I like that element of it, that Helen gets involved and she makes it worse and everything makes it worse. And Rebecca's trying to do the right thing over and over and over again. And it blows up in her face. Cause you know what? Sometimes that happens. And
yeah,
I liked that. Just give me some logic to it. So I wasn't a fan of that. You know, and the Lidsay thing, I think is everything you said is exactly right. I think it's interesting. It feels like a rewrite of a previous story. I think in many ways it is improved that way. I like seeing the machinations of like, how are they gonna defend her? Because you're sort of, when you murder somebody, you have to make some tough decisions because you've kind of painted yourself into a corner you don't want to be in. So that I like, that the performances were really good. I think this would have been better without the B story at all. And
put Rebecca in on our case.
Put Rebecca in the case. Like, the stakes are too high to have a B story sort of any consequences. But I think we needed one more. The reason I think it was there is that they didn't have enough storytelling to do in the Lidsay case. It felt like there was a little bit of filler in there, and I think they needed one more complication that forced that story back up into prominence, because it felt a little bit like, yeah, there's some stuff we have to get to, but mainly we're just like spitting out another episode to have the trial be the season finale. And so, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because of the stakes and things happen, but it just could have been better. So I'm actually going to give it less than you. I'm going to give it 6.87. It wasn't atrocious, but it also wasn't good. So
before we go off it though, like, can we talk for a second about, like, do you think they thought about it, or do you think that we just sum up the PUD guy with crazy people do crazy things? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that works for me. I'm trying to still figure out, okay, he kidnaps the girl. Clearly he didn't murder her. He kidnaps her, tells her his friend. So maybe he does sort of have like a sex dungeon kind of plan.
Right.
But then he must have anticipated he was going to get arrested for the attack/murder.
I mean, I don't know. And the thing is, I don't know. And this thing is also, if you go back and think, like, how he behaved on the stand, he tried to
cavalier.
Like charm the jury. So like, and like, he thought he had some sort of a trump card with the fact that she was kidnapped, but how does that help her? I mean, he did sort of like, he was under the assumption that the kidnapping would be a lesser included. But again, that's just, it doesn't really.
Here's the thing, last week, I think I chalked up some writing to laziness. This isn't laziness. This I will say, I think is straight up bad writing. Like, that's not good. And I get it that you think it doesn't. What lets me down a little bit is that there are clearly directorial powers that be, production powers that be, that decide that that's okay because where we're going is really interesting.
I mean, it felt rushed. It felt like, I have a week to put this out. I don't have time to woodshed the logic here. So
we're rushed every week, Keith, and we don't woodshed anything.
And we have no logic, but we're not trying to pretend that we do. So
that's true. But we do have one bit of logic.
Yeah.
And that logic is in the form of an Easter egg every week. And this week, my friends, that's got to be a pop figurine of our good friend Pugsley Adams.
It sure is.
Who is not quite the PUD we're talking about, but in this case, it'll pass the censors.
Let's hope so. Well, mercifully, you have gotten through another episode of the Out of Practice podcast. If you would like to write and complain, you can find us at Out of Practice Podcast at gmail.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Out of Practice. You know, while you're at it, do us a huge favor. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and we will welcome you to the jury. You'll be joined all of these fine people here on the jury list, and we'll be very grateful for it. Speaking of people we're grateful for, we'd like to thank our founding sponsors, Jorge Navoa, Cloud Lover 69, Leanne Wrights, Jennifer Masanova, and Kari Kuhn.
Did you know that you can get your name on that list? You can join them by becoming an actual sponsor of the Out of Practice podcast. We could use your help. You can do so in one of three ways. The first two are financial. You can click one of the links in our show notes to leave us a one-time contribution as a gift or a sustaining monthly contribution. It's like PBS, only shittier. Or thirdly, you could tell a friend, someone who likes to listen to random podcasts, that there are these two guys talking about the practice, but it's about so much more and so much less at the same time. And if you can't do any of those things, do us the biggest favor of all. Unzip your pants and show us those laser sounds.
Nope. Laser sounds. Not taking responsibility for that one. Bail! Eject!